You've probably had a tick on you at some point in your life. Maybe after a hike, maybe after rolling around in the grass as a kid. Maybe you just woke up one morning and there it was. A tiny little blood-filled dot just embedded in your skin. Gross, and I think most of us agree that parasites in general are just one of those things that you'd rather not think about. Something living on you, feeding off you, and you don't even know it's there. But here's the thing, modern parasites, they're the easy mode version, because the parasites that existed during the age of the dinosaurs were bigger, meaner, and in some cases so terrifyingly effective that they could bring down the most powerful predator that ever walked the earth. And I mean that literally. So let's talk about what it was actually like to be a dinosaur covered in parasites. Now, the first thing I need to tell you about is the fleas. And I know, the fleas. The little things that hop about on your dog. How scary can they possibly be? Well, about 50 times scarier, as it turns out. See, modern fleas are tiny, maybe 1 to 3 millimeters long, like a grain of sand but with legs. But during the Jurassic, about 165 million years ago, there were flea-like insects in what is now China that were up to 23 millimeters long. That's almost a full inch. An inch-long flea. And unlike modern fleas, which are sort of flat from side to side so that they can slip through fur, these ancient fleas were flat like a tick or a bed bug, with long claws and armored mouths covered in saw-like teeth. And I want you to picture that for a second, because these were not built for crawling around on a golden retriever. They were built for punching through thick dinosaur skin. And because they didn't have the springy jumping legs that modern fleas do have, scientists think they were ambush hunters. They'd hide in the leaf litter or in nesting material, and then when they see a feathered dinosaur sat down to rest or to sleep, they'd crawl onto its belly and drive those serrated, saw-toothed mouths straight through its hide. One researcher described the bite as feeling like a needle going into your body. Except the needle is alive, and it's drinking your blood, and it's the size of your thumbnail. And by the way, this wasn't just one species. Scientists have found several types of these giant flea-like insects across different time periods, from the Middle Jurassic all the way into the early Cretaceous, spanning about 40 million years. 40 million years of inch-long, blood-sucking nightmares crawling across the bellies of sleeping dinosaurs. But the fleas were just the start, because in 2017, scientists cracked open a piece of 99-million-year-old amber from Myanmar, and inside was a tick still gripping a dinosaur feather, like frozen in the act. Its tiny claws were wrapped around a feather from a dinosaur that lived alongside things like velociraptors and early birds. And this is the first direct proof that ticks were feeding on feathered dinosaurs almost 100 million years ago. And it gets better, because in more amber from the same region, they found a completely new type of tick that doesn't even exist anymore. And they gave it the single greatest name in all of paleontology: Dracula's terrible tick. Officially called Dinocroton draculae, and one of these specimens, it was engorged. It had swollen to 8 times its normal size from a blood meal it had just taken. Frozen in amber, stuffed full of dinosaur blood. And no, before you ask, we cannot make Jurassic Park from it. The blood got mineralized during fossilization. But what scientists could figure out is that these ticks were nest parasites, meaning they found tiny hairs from skin beetles stuck to the ticks, and skin beetles only live in nests, feeding on shed feathers and dead skin. So these ticks were lurking in dinosaur nests, feeding on the chicks, feeding on the parents, feeding on anything warm-blooded enough to have blood worth drinking. So yeah, even baby dinosaurs had parasites. Even in the nest, they weren't safe. Now, if the fleas and ticks were bad, at least they were honest about it. They showed up, bit you, drank your blood, and left. Straightforward transaction. Horrible, but straightforward. But there was another type of parasite living alongside the dinosaurs that did something much worse. It didn't just feed on you, it controlled you. If you've played The Last of Us or watched the show, you already know where this is going. Because the zombie fungus in that franchise is real, and it's been real for at least 99 million years. It's called Ophiocordyceps, And here's how it works. A fungal spore lands on an ant. It drills through the ant's outer shell using a mix of pressure and digestive enzymes. And then, it starts growing inside the ant's body, spreading through its tissues and eating it from the inside. But it doesn't kill the ant. Not yet. First, it hijacks the ant's brain. It strips the ant of its instincts, its fear of heights, its sense of direction, its loyalty to the colony, and it forces the ant to leave its nest, climb to a high point on a nearby plant, and bite down on a leaf, with a death grip so strong it stays locked even after the ant dies. And then the fungus explodes out the ant's head. It grows this long stalk out of the corpse, and from the top, it rains millions of spores down onto the forest floor below, where they land on more ants, and the whole thing starts again. Places where this happens a lot, scientists call graveyards. And in 2025, researchers found 2 more pieces of 99 million year old amber from Myanmar that had this exact thing preserved inside them. In one piece, the fungus was caught mid-explosion, bursting out of a young ant's body. In the other, it was growing out of a fly's head, 99 million years old, which means this zombie fungus was hijacking insect brains while the T-Rex was still walking around. And you thought The Last of Us was fiction. It's a documentary, just about ants. But I saved the best one for last. And by best, I mean the one that genuinely changes how you think about power. You know Sue. Maybe not by name, but you've seen her. She's the most famous dinosaur skeleton in the world. A T-Rex on display at the Field Museum in Chicago. 42 feet long, 7 tons, the most complete T-Rex ever found. And for years, scientists noticed these weird, smooth holes in Sue's jawbones. Not cracks, not breaks, just these clean, round holes punched right through the bone. And the assumption was always that these were battle scars, that some other T-Rex had bitten her in the face during a fight, because tyrannosaurs did that a lot. Up to 60% of specimens show evidence of face biting. But in 2009, a team of researchers proposed something completely different. They said the holes weren't from a fight at all. They were from a parasite. Specifically, a single-celled organism, a protozoan, almost directly identical to the one that infects modern birds like hawks and falcons today. It's called Trichomonas, and what it does is it creates ulcers in the mouth, in the throat, and as it spreads, it starts eating through the jawbone from the inside, leaving the same smooth, clean holes, exactly like the ones on Sue's skeleton. The team looked at 61 Tyrannosaur specimens, and nearly 15% of them had the same lesions. Same size, shape, and location, all consistent with this one tiny single-celled parasite. And here's what makes this genuinely chilling. In modern birds, when the infection gets bad enough, the ulcers grow so large that they block the throat. The animal can't swallow food, it can't drink water, and it just starves to death. So Sue, the largest T-Rex ever found, 7 tons of apex predator with the most powerful bite force of any land animal in the history of life on Earth, may have been slowly, agonizingly starved to death, and by an organism you can't even see without a microscope. And the worst part? Scientists think the tyrannosaurs were spreading it to each other through all that face biting. Their own aggressive behavior was the delivery system for the very thing that was killing them. And I think that's kind of the whole point, right? We look at dinosaurs and see massive, powerful, terrifying animals, apex predators, kings of the food chain. But the parasites didn't care about any of that. The fleas didn't care that you were a feathered predator. The ticks didn't care that you were raising your young in a nest. And the Trichomonas definitely didn't care that you had the most powerful jaws on the planet. And you know what's really wild? Is that the dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago, but the parasites didn't. The ticks survived, the protozoans survived, the parasitic fungi survived. They all just found new hosts. So next time you find a tick on yourself after a walk through the woods, just remember that its ancestors were doing the exact same thing to a dinosaur 99 million years ago. And the tick doesn't care that the dinosaurs are gone, it just moved on to you. And somewhere out there, right now, in a rainforest, the zombie fungus is still hijacking ants, still making them do the climb of doom, and still bursting out of their heads. 100 million years later, and the playbook hasn't changed for any of the parasites. So yeah, if you're watching this at night,